Here is another example which will relate currency with fractions. Let's try to add these four fractions. So the fractions are 1 over 4 plus 1 over 10 plus 1 over 10 plus 1 over 20. Now to add fraction, what should you do? You need a common denominator, right? So what is the common denominator of these numbers? How do you find that? Least common denominator. We could use multiple repeated division process, right? So let's do that repeated division process and figure out what is the common denominator between these numbers. So the numbers given to us are 4, 10, 10 and 20. We could have written just 10 once, right? There was no need of writing 10 twice. So to find common denominator, we can divide them by 2. So let's divide them by 2. What do you get? 2 times 2 is 4, 2 times 5 is 10, and 2 times 10 is 20. Now again we can divide them by 2. So we'll get 1, 5 and 5. I hope you understand what we are trying to do here. This is repeated division to find common denominator. So we have videos showing details of how to do it. But basically we are trying to find a common factor and we are factoring that out. 5 is not divisible by 2 and therefore we write 5 as such. Now when you see this, you can divide it further by 5. Now 1 is not divisible by 5, so we'll just copy 1 as such and write 5 does not go into 1, so it is 1 here. 5 will go one time in 5 and one time in this 5 also. So we got common denominator now by multiplying these three numbers. So least common denominator for this fraction is 2 times 2 times 5, which is 4 times 5, 20, right? So 20 is our least common denominator. To add fractions, we should have a common denominator. That is why we did all this. Well, this is one method of doing it, which we call repeated division. Now, you need not always do it. In this particular case, it was very easy to make out that 20 is our least common denominator. So, let's try to make them all as 20 with their common denominator and then add, right? So how will you make 1/4 as a fraction with 20 in denominator? Let's see that. So we can rewrite these fractions as 1 over 4 plus 1 over 10 plus 1 over 10 could be added at this stage, and we can write this as 2 over 10. Okay, that's not a problem. Since their denominators are the same, they can be added. So let's write 2 over 10 for that, and then we have 1 over 20. Now, we know 20 is the common denominator. To make 20, we need to multiply this by 5, right? Both numerator and denominator. And here, to make 20, 10 times 2 is 20. So let's multiply this by 2. Now, what do we get? We get equivalent fraction as 5 over 20 plus 2 times 2 is 4, 4 over 20 plus 1 over 20. Now if you add them all, you get 5 plus 4, 9 plus 1, 10, right? So you get 10 over 20. So that is what you get. 10 over 20 is half. So you get half, 10 over 20. So that is the addition of these fractions. Now let us try to see if we could do this with money. The second part of this question here is relate this addition to money. Now if we are saying 1/4 of something, let's say 1/4 of a dollar, 1/10 of a dollar, 1/10 of a dollar, and 1/20th of a dollar, what is that number? So let's relate it to money and see that part. That's kind of interesting. So relating to money, let me write here, relating to money, right? So say 1/4 of a dollar. 1/4 of a dollar is 25 cents. So we can write this as 25 cents. Right? Plus 1/10 of the dollar is 10 cents. Plus 1/10 of the dollar is 10 cents. And 1/20th of the dollar is 1/20th of the dollar is 5 cents. Right? So that's a quarter, that's a dime, and a nickel. So when you add these, what do you get? 25, 10, 35, 10, 45 plus 5 is 50, right? So you get 50 cents. 50 cents is half of a dollar, right? 50 cents is like half of a dollar. Do you see that? It's dollar half. So you kind of get an idea how much that money is. So sometimes when you have fractions like this, you can think about money and then count without fractions, right? So this is like counting without fractions. So it becomes at times simpler when if we could relate and then do things, right? So that's a real life situation. So many times when you have 1/4 and half and tenth and 1/5, you could always relate it with money and then add. That's an alternate way of doing fractions. Thank you.